have too many people sucking off the government. I've talked about this before. I work with Section 8. Okay. I have tenants that fall behind throughout the year. And so we know around tax time, those tenants that are on Section 8 will file their taxes. And meanwhile, they're on SNAP benefits. They pretty much have reduced or free rent. And a lot of them are on Social Security because they're able to get like death benefits or this, that, or whatever, that's been perverse. It was supposed to be for retirement. And our politicians were like, here, let me buy your vote and we'll open it up to more population. And they don't contribute like financially or productivity, nothing. And at tax time, I know I need to reach out to them and say, hey, you've got this balance. I know you're filing your tax return and they're going to get a fucking rebate. They get money back after the federal government pretty much pays for a majority of their living expenses. And so we've got a whole bunch of people that are able-bodied, can work, choose not to, and are sucking off of the system.
That infuriates me, because I know that at first, when I was coming up and when I first started to work and I became an adult, the kind of the narrative, especially in the Black community, because it was so prevalent, and it's even more prevalent in the white communities. The narrative that was growing up in the hood was you get as much money as you could from the government. And we always framed it as the government, but we never really looked at it for what it was. It was taxpayer money that was coming out of people's paychecks that Democrats were using in order to buy people's votes. So they tied, and we all familiar with the fact that they've removed men out of the households, they've separated us, they've pushed these agendas, multiple different agendas, that basically incentivize people to leave their houses or leave their spouses and make themselves struggle while at the same time getting guaranteed benefits from the federal government. Now, if you go outside of the United States of America, to most countries, you either sink or you swim. It just is what it is. There is no subsidies. Of course, they do have programs in certain places where you can help homeless people, but you are not set up to where if you don't make sure that you take care of yourself and you contribute to yourself or whatever, that you are just going to get a handout for the rest of your life. But we were sold on this idea that, oh man, that's just the federal government's money, and so we're going to get as much as we can. Not realizing that literally we were mortgaging our children's future in order to subsidize our lifestyle, and we were incentivized to have a bunch of children out of wedlock that's not conducive for our life. So what you basically see is people have been on the system for so long that they sitting there and they complaining, and I see video after video where women are basically saying, well, what am I supposed to do? And I don't want to work. And, I can't believe it. They're going to take the money from my children because they were taught by their parents on how to finesse the system when it comes to SNAP benefits, Section 8, EBT, WIC, all of that stuff, right? When we were coming up, it used to be bad. And kids often at times got teased when they had to actually carry that booklet of food stamps. Now, this was in the late 80s, early 90s. And at some point, they phased it out and they made it more efficient by saying that we just going to give y'all debit cards. The same thing that they was doing to illegal migrants, and they was giving them hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars per city to make sure that they can feed, clothe, and take care of themselves. And that came at the behest of able-bodied people that were grinding every day. When you and I go out every day, right? Because the one thing that really pissed me off when I was of age was, as a single responsible adult, a person that did not have children, a person that was not married, and I was hustling, I was grinding, I was working 2 jobs, and then eventually I went over to the steel mill, right? And this was over 20 years ago. I went to the steel mill. And then in the steel mill, I was able to work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week practically. And we was hustling and we was grinding. Often at times we got breaks, but a lot of times we had to do some of the scummiest jobs, and that's how you was able to get your overtime. And so a lot of guys had tied their lifestyle into how much they made per year. And some of us was making well over $100,000 a year. It sounds crazy, right? But here's the thing. When you would get your paycheck, and I don't remember exactly how much it is, and I would be looking at the amount of taxes, and then I started asking, like when I got my first really, really big check, from working, not from the federal government or anything like that. Man, I asked the question and I said, bro, like, why do I have to pay so much in taxes? Why this, why that, so on and so forth? Nobody could really explain it to me except for to say because you were a single able-bodied adult and because you work too much. That was what they used to tell us, is that you work too much. You don't want to make this amount of money. You don't want to go into this next tax bracket. You were decentivized from grinding and hustling because the whole idea was that you work too much because that's going to, force you to pay more taxes. And as I got older, because we know that most people transition over from being Democrat to Republican, most people as they get wiser, which means that the Democrat Party has to trick people to become Democrats, and so they endear themselves to the party, and that's how they bind your vote. I realize that I am basically, the more that I work and the more I make and the more I hustle and the more I put into myself, which would then benefit me long term, the worse off it is for me, because now I got people that's sitting there saying, tax the rich. Bro, you're not taxing the rich. You're taxing a person that invested in themselves. And you're saying, take it from him and give it to everybody else because they don't deserve it. And his capitalistic system is bad. There are parts of capitalism that we need to rein in. No system is perfect, but it is 100% the best system ever. The problem is that we then took a program like food stamps, welfare, government assistance, and all of this stuff, which I don't necessarily think is bad, right? But it's supposed to be a bridge that gets you to the next space or gets you over if you are in a position or you in a situation to where you can't necessarily help yourself, or you got laid off from your job, or you need a transition, or you got to go back to school or whatever. It is supposed to be a system that helps get you to the next space, but it is not supposed to be a handicap. It is not supposed to prevent you from being great. It's not supposed to slow you down and all of that stuff. It's supposed to help you get to the next point, get to the next level up, become great, whatever that is. But we've now subsidized that in our lifestyle, and people have been on it for so long that they are now being rewarded. It has become a part of our cultural norm, and people are being rewarded for bad behavior. The bad behavior is not that you need it. The bad behavior is that you're incentivized to have more children in order to stay on it. The bad behavior is that people get a refund and a rebate check similar to what she's talking about. And then you have another subset of people that are preying on that. It's people that get into Section 8 housing because they know that that is a guaranteed form of income. And I am baffled. Like, I am blown. My mind is blown at the idea that people can get a rebate check at something that they didn't contribute into. And then they'll have a problem with you getting a lower tax rate, saying that more money needs to go over to people that's not working every single day. And it's not people, like, these people are, a lot of them are making up stuff. They saying that oh my God, I'm mental anguish and all of this other bullshit. The reality is that they're tricking and finessing the system, and they acting like they're not able-bodied adults, when in reality, they are finessing the system. They're taking advantage of it. They're getting their disability benefits early because they're able to get a doctor to write them a note and all of this other nonsense, and it's become a racket. It is a multi-trillion-dollar racket that uses people that work every single day, demonizes people that work their ass off and get it the right way, and then it gives it over to people that don't even care, that's not even good stewards of it. And I've even seen it to the point to where women are selling their food stamps for 50 cents on the dollar in order to get the cash so that they can go on trips and do what they want to do. It's disrespectful. It is 100% disrespectful. But as usual, I always like to link back to the content creator in order to give credit regardless of whether I agree with them or not. Let me know what y'all think about these people getting rebate checks. That is so many people that's taking advantage of the system, and able-bodied adults that refuse to work because they are going to lose their benefits. Let me know what y'all think. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Hanley 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.